guys? The Bench Buddies are back, and today I will be making some trade deadline predictions and previews with some guys that are on the block or potentially could get traded. But before we get into it, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Comment below where you think some guys will be going or which players I missed, which could be dealt as well, and what prospects you think will be dealt at the deadline as well. But let's get into it here with Juan Soto, of course, the biggest name that could be dealt on free agency. And, it's more and more likely that it's going to happen. I mean, his on-base percentage over 400, and these stats are as accurate of Wednesday, July 27th. And it's looking like the Cardinals are the head honchos right now with those Padres and Dodgers close behind. The Cardinals have a lot to offer, and I think that it just makes sense that Soto goes there. It is a thing where Soto gets out the same year that Goldschmidt's contract ends, so they could choose who they really want to do and sign there. Obviously, it should be Soto because he's so young, but Juan Soto obviously is a good piece, and it'll be interesting to see if the Cardinals really can pull that one off. Andrew Benintendi is another name that's getting thrown out there. He's more than likely going to be dealt. Some different teams here: Yankees, Braves, and Blue Jays. I think these are the teams that kind of are missing out on the Soto sweepstakes, and they're going to try to go for a really solid bat this year, and has the potential to turn into something even better than what he's doing now. Especially in those all three loaded lineups that you can see there's possible fits. He'd slide in and make an immediate impact and make that lineup even harder. Ian Happ is probably the most interesting name floated around there. I believe, the Yankees, of course, are going to be some front runners for almost every team, but an interesting team to look out for would be the Rays. They need some outfield help when Kiermaier went down. They could stick him in the infield if really need that second, but he'd probably play outfield more or less. And, a lefty bat, that'd be good in the lineup for the Rays as well. But, I think the Cubs, they're looking for obviously a long rebuild here if they're getting rid of Happ and Contreras, as you'll see next slide. And, with Ian Happ, I really like him as a Cub. He fits the Cub mentality. All the fans love him. Same for Contreras. But it's just that time where the Cubs are needing to start rebuild, trade away some veterans, some guys they've had for a while, and hopefully get a good return. And speaking about Contreras, I think he could go to the Rays as well. And honestly, I'm kind of seeing that this might be a package deal, either with Contreras and Happ or Contreras and David Robertson. And, it's just interesting to see that those Cubs have three guys that are probably going to be dealt at the deadline. But Contreras is the most interesting one here. You have him obviously being a catcher, one of the best catchers this year in baseball. The Astros are much needed help. Obviously, the Rays too, with Zunino out for the year. And the Giants could be an interesting contender with Joey Bart barely playing this year. And if the Giants really want to make a push, I could see them making a move. Josh Bell from the Washington Nationals having a career best year, and it's the last year of his contract, so more or less he's going to be dealt as well. And these are going to go to the top tier teams. I mean, the Mets, they could be a good fit there. Get a lefty bat and add some power. Houston Astros and the Brewers, I think, Astros don't really need him, but I think it would bolster their lineup and really make it stronger. Brewers, I think they need to bring in a bat for sure. And, they've been getting it done, win games with their pitching and bullpen, but, if they can add a solid bat to the lineup, make that lineup a little more scarier, especially for postseason. We've seen their postseason struggles, the last few years of being able to score runs. Josh Bell could help that for sure. Now, JD Martinez is an interesting name that'll be floated around at the deadline until really next Tuesday, because it depends on how the Red Sox treat this deadline. He is in his last year, but are they going to try to make a push, stay pat, roll with what they got, or are they going to trade him and just call it quits for the year? If they do decide to do that, I think the Mets could be a good fit. The Mariners, I think, is kind of a stretch fit for me, but they could get a nice return there. And the Padres as well. I think if he goes to the Padres, I mean, even Machado, Martinez, Voit, Tatis when he finally gets healthy, Profar who's having a good year, that lineup could be very scary come postseason time, especially if that rotation tunes up a few things. But JD Martinez, not his normal self with only 9 home runs this year and 38 RBIs, but he's still a really good hitter and his value is still up there. Brandon Drury for the Cincinnati Reds. This will be a lower cost name, but could return high value. And of course, the Braves are going to be in that category because the Braves do it. They did it last year. They've done it the year before when making these pushes, getting Jock Peterson last year, and obviously look how that turned out for them. I think this could be a similar situation here for the Braves if they really get this done for Drury. Giants depends on what they decide to do, and of course the Dodgers, they're going to add somebody that's having a good year that's going to fly under the radar and make an immediate impact. And I can see Drury being one of those guys for them. Ryan Reynolds is an interesting name as well. They have him under control. I believe it is under 2025, I believe. But if they decide to get rid of him, they should get a hefty return back because, they have a lot of team control left. And the Yankees could really fit him in there. They have a lot of top prospects. Velope could be a name that could be floated around. Dominguez as well, just because, outfielder. But another interesting team would be the Marlins, just because if they want to try to win on these next few years, I think Reynolds could fill a key piece there because he can also play second and outfield. And Jazz, with he's had some injury struggles. He's more than likely going to be out for this year. So you could throw him in there, see what they're going to do. But it's just interesting. I think personally they're going to hold on to Reynolds. Maybe next deadline if the Pirates are still, slacking or same position last year. I think that's kind of where the Pirates stand right now. But, things could change from now until next Tuesday. Whit Merrifield, he is in his last year of the contract, I believe. He's probably going to get dealt as well with the Royals being out of it. Mariners, if they're looking to really make a push, I think Merrifield would be a great acquisition there. Stick him in outfielder second. Adam Frazier kind of doing the same thing there. But, with Julio, Ty France, the lineup that's very underrated, Whit Merrifield could really boost that lineup, get some more stolen bases. The average is a bit concerning for him. I thought, he's more of a 270 type hitter, I believe, in his career. So he's kind of having a down year, but, with not a good lineup around him, that's kind of happens. They kind of key in on him and go around him or, not attack him. If they want to trade in the division, it could be the White Sox as they look to bolster up the infield. And the Brewers, I said, they need a bat. They're going to get a bat, I believe, at the deadline, but it's just going to be a matter of who they get. Trey Mancini, I think this is going to go to a high-ranked team in our power rankings and record-wise. He just seems like he's going to be a DH, maybe first base, outfield a little bit here. A bat that can be afforded for cheap because he's making, I think 6.7 mil or something this year. So he's relatively cheap for MLB contract standards. And it looks like, those top three money teams can afford that because it's someone on the cheaper side, get him for this year and then go on his way more than likely. Sean Murphy is an interesting catcher prospect, I guess you could say, for the A's. He's a rookie, I believe, this year or his second year. Angels, Twins, and Rays, three teams that you probably wouldn't really see go after it at the deadline, but the Twins, that'd be great for them for their future. I know they have Gary Sanchez and he's been doing so. Bringing in Sean Murphy, that'd be a huge boost for them. Tampa Bay Rays, obviously, as I said, Contreras, Zunino, if they miss out on him, I think they could go for Murphy because it seems like the Rays can fleece anybody no matter who they have. But the Angels, I don't know if they're really going to contend for him just because, Trout with his back that we learned today. And, Ohtani, could he be dealt as well? I just don't know if the A's or the Angels are really going to do that. Joey Gallo, he is more than likely going to be traded to a team that's either willing to take a risk or to trade, a team with a team and kind of take on his contract. That's why I put the Royals in there. If they get Benintendi, I think Gallo could be sent back there. Just, eat up his 1-year contract, finish it out as a Royal, kind of clear up some cap space for the Yankees. But the other two teams that I think could take the risk would be the Phillies and Padres. Bring in a 1.5 bat. If it works, okay. If not, then you try it. You're not giving up the farm system here with that 161 average. Jared Kelnick, I would like my Tigers to try to go get him. I think this is an interesting kid. He's had 2 stints in the MLB, last year and this year. Hasn't really panned out for him. I believe that's in 30 games, those stats for this year. So he hasn't really been up that much, trying to figure it out. The Nationals, he could go there for the Soto return. Same for the Royals if they get Benintendi, these Mariners teams. But I just think, someone's got to reach out and attempt to make a trade for him. Dom Smith playing in almost 60 games this year. He's a low budget bat, someone willing to take a risk. That's why I have these 3 teams here. The Cubs and Tigers are kind of low. And I think, maybe get a bat in there, see if it can be something for next year. Or the Red Sox, same thing, if they can get something out of him. David Peralta is an interesting name that's, flying under the radar here because he has been solid his whole career. He's got the veteran experience. Hasn't really been in the playoffs though, but I think this could be a Yankees guy for sure. Stealing, low budget player coming in and making immediate impact. Moving on to the pitchers, we have Luis Castillo, who's pitching tonight. This is probably the best pitching prospect that we've had in a while on the trade deadline, in my opinion. He's had a 2.77 ERA, 13 games started, and he's really kind of carried this Reds rotation to a lot of their wins this year. But the Mets, Yankees, and Blue Jays, pretty much all the teams that need an extra starter and a good SP3 would love to get Castillo, and that's why they're all good fits. Same with Frankie Montas here, the second best pitcher on the market. The Cardinals, if they, decide to not go with the Soto sweepstakes, I think it's almost a lock to get one of these guys as well. They want to bolster their rotation because, with Jack Flaherty incident, with how long he's going to be out for, they need someone in the postseason to really take over. Can't be Mikolas and Wainwright. You need a good three, and I think Montas fits that category. But the Twins could be a very interesting name as well. Is Chris Archer really going to be your one, or Joe Ryan, the rookie, going into the postseason? Probably don't want that, so I think that's why I could see Montas to the Twins. Carlos Rondon. So this is the interesting name here. He has next year too, but he can opt out after this year after pitching his 110 innings. He did that already, so now he's eligible to opt out, and that's why this name's going to get floated around here. Will he be dealt? I think that's going to be a last-minute call, but if he gets dealt, I think one of those three teams there could be, the good candidates, and, it could happen. I mean, maybe a reunion with the White Sox as well. If they need a starter, I could see them reaching out and him going back to the White Sox. Quintana, same thing. Could he go back to the White Sox as well? He's putting up a career best year, kind of rejuvenating his career, getting him in a position to be a good, 3 or 4 on a good starting team. And that's why I still have the Yankees and Blue Jays up there. Martin Perez, I'm putting him on here. It's not likely he's going to get dealt, as he said he wants to sign a contract extension with the Rangers for the future. I'm kind of 95% sure that's going to happen. But if it doesn't somehow, some way, those are the three teams that I think could really use his talents. Noah Syndergaard, and we're going to talk about how he just, kind of is under the radar so far this year. 80 innings, sub-4 ERA, 64 Ks, and he's not his old self, mowing these guys down. But could he go back to the Mets? Or is he going to go to an in-division or in-conference rival, the Phillies and the Cardinals? I think he's going to get dealt. It's just a matter of time before a team really scoops up a low budget, good veteran here. David Robertson for the reliever, the Cubs. Pretty much any team that needs a reliever, they're going to reach out for sure. And I think you got to add even the Rays to this list because they've had a bad bullpen. Their bullpen's struggling. And, if they decide to go for Contreras, they might as well get Robertson too. Kind of give up a few guys. Brujon could be a name for the Rays that could be dealt. Michael Fulmer, one of my Tigers, he's had a really good year out of the bullpen. I think whoever gets him, Tigers get a lot back in return. And I'm kind of hoping that's the case here. Mets, Yankees, Padres. I'd really like it if it was the Padres. Ryan Weathers has been floated around. I think that'd be an interesting guy to bring in. Could be a starting pitcher, long reliever, something the Tigers really need, especially because with all these injuries they've had this year. Yankees, I don't know if they're going to go top 5 prospect here for a reliever. Same with the Mets, but I think you get a decent return here if you're the Tigers. David Bednar, he could get packaged in with Brian Reynolds. If not, those are the 3 teams I could see him going to. He's had a really good year. Been the closer. I believe he has like 18 saves, I believe, for the Pirates this year. He probably wouldn't be the closer for any 3 of those teams there, maybe the Phillies. But he'd be a good, solid 7th inning, 8th inning guy for them. Daniel Bard as well. He's been a closer, solid closer for the Rockies. And once again, he would more than like slide into a 7th or 8th inning role on those 3 teams there that you see. And it's pretty much Mets, Yankees are going to be on almost every slide here for bullpen because, these great teams, they got to have a good bullpen and got to rely on that, especially in the postseason. So they're going to be calling a lot for relievers. Again, Anthony Bass, but I could see him moving to the Braves, the division rival. They definitely need some bullpen help, the Braves. They've been struggling recently, and this is a low cost kind of guy. He's had solid numbers that are flying under the radar because he's playing in Miami. And if you're the Braves, I think you give up a prospect and some cash to bring in a good reliever. Gregory Soto is a name that's definitely floated around. The two-time Tiger All-Star. Braves, another connection there. Dodgers, I could see him going there. A nice lefty arm out of the pen that throws gas. They fix his command, then he could be even better than he is now. The Red Sox, depending on how they treat the deadline, could be a candidate as well. And that's going to be it for the video today. If you liked it, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Comment what you guys think of that video. What could be better, what could be worse, what happened. But until the next time, the bench buddies are out.